April 4th, 2026. That date, you see, there isn't just another number on the calendar. It is the day Messi inaugurates his own temple, a stadium that has been years in the making and will forever change the football landscape in the United States. Did you know that this year, 2026, won't be just any year for the Argentine? It will be the year in which everything he has built in Miami since his arrival finally takes physical, monumental, and eternal shape. Right now, as you read this, there is a colossus of steel and glass awaiting his blessing. In this video, you're going to discover 3 things. First, why April 4th is the most important date for American soccer in decades. Second, how a promise made in 2018 became the masterstroke of David Beckham and Jorge Mas. And finally, why this stadium isn't just concrete and seats, but the definitive monument to Messi's time in America. Stay until the end of the video and you will understand the reason for everything, because every detail you are about to hear is connected in ways that even sports journalists haven't fully explored. December 2025. Pink and black confetti was still falling over Chase Stadium when Messi lifted the MLS Cup for the first time in his career. 2 perfect assists, one for Rodrigo de Paul in the decisive minute, and another that dismantled Vancouver's defense as if they were training cones. 15 goal contributions in those playoffs, an absolute postseason record. But while the flashes went off and the fans roared, something bigger was brewing just miles away. Because that temporary stadium, Chase Stadium, with a capacity for just over 21,000 people, was never intended to contain the magnitude of what Messi represented. The reality is that from the moment he signed his arrival in Miami, the clock started ticking. Not just the clock of his career, which at 38 years old continues to defy the logic of physical decline, but the clock of an architectural promise that began long before he set foot on American soil. In 2018, when David Beckham and Jorge Mas announced the creation of Inter Miami, there was a public commitment to build their own stadium, a true home, not a borrowed venue. But the years passed. Licenses were delayed. Plans changed location 3 times. And meanwhile, Messi played in what was basically an upgraded college stadium. Can you imagine Pelé inaugurating Santos Stadium without it truly being his? Or Maradona blessing the San Paulo knowing it was only temporary? Impossible. Because legends don't just need results. They need cathedrals where those results become eternal. And therein lies the first twist of this story. Messi agreed to come to Miami knowing the stadium didn't exist yet. He signed trusting in a promise of concrete and steel that was still just digital renders and scale models in PowerPoint presentations. But what no one saw was the silent movement that occurred between October and December 2025. While the team prepared for those historic playoffs, while Mascherano adjusted the tactics and de Paul refined his connection with Messi in training, the club's lawyers were closing the most important contract extension in the franchise's history. Messi signed until 2028. Not until 2026. Not until 2027. Until 2028. 3 full seasons guaranteed in the new stadium. Jorge Mas had said it publicly months earlier, "We want Leo to be here for the inauguration of Miami Freedom Park." And Messi, who doesn't usually commit long-term at his age, accepted.
Why?
Because this isn't a simple sports contract. It's a legacy pact. Let's go back a moment. When Beckham launched the Inter Miami project in 2018, skepticism was massive. MLS had already seen franchises fail in Miami before. The Latino public in Florida is demanding, accustomed to watching top-tier European and South American football. What could a new team, with no history and no stadium of its own, offer in a league that many purists consider inferior? The answer arrived 5 years later, in the form of a 5'7" Argentine who transformed everything he touched. 43 goals and 28 assists in 49 matches during 2025. Numbers from another planet, especially for someone who had supposedly come to retire in a minor league. But this is where the story gets serious. Because Messi didn't come to Miami just for the sun and the palm trees. He came because he saw something that few understood at the time. The opportunity to close his career not as a declining player looking for one last paycheck, but as the architect of a project that would outlive him. And the construction of Miami Freedom Park is, literally and metaphorically, that architecture. The excavators began moving on the Fort Lauderdale site in mid-2023. 131 acres of development, not just a stadium. A 125,000 square foot entertainment district. A 58-acre public park. 25,000 seats in a structure that combines cutting-edge technology with design inspired by Miami Beach's Art Deco architecture. And every inch of that project was conceived with one central question: how do we build something worthy of Lionel Messi? Now, if you like this content, subscribe to the channel because even more in-depth videos are coming about the future of Messi and Inter Miami. The easy version of this story is the one the mainstream media tells. A global star arrives in the United States, the club builds a new stadium, everyone is happy. The end. But that superficial narrative ignores the brutal context that made all of this possible. Because in reality, Miami Freedom Park shouldn't exist. At least not in 2026. Legal delays, political battles with the city of Miami, and objections from environmental groups all pointed to this project being delayed until 2027 or even 2028. And by then, Messi would be 39, almost 40 years old. How much time would he really have left? This is where the factor that changes everything comes in: the invisible pressure of the biological clock. Inter Miami's technical teams knew that every additional season playing at Chase Stadium was a lost season in terms of cultural impact. Because it isn't the same to see Messi in a stadium that looks like a college field as it is to see him in a cathedral of modern football. Perception matters. Epics matter. And epics require the right stage. That's why, between late 2024 and early 2025, there was a desperate push behind the scenes. Meetings with the mayor of Miami, accelerated deals with Apple TV to ensure the broadcast of the inauguration, coordination with MLS to adjust the schedule and guarantee that the opening match would be in prime time. Everything had to align for April 4th, 2026. Because that date wasn't chosen at random. It falls on a Saturday. Perfect temperature in Florida. 3 months before the start of the 2026 World Cup, right when the hype for the tournament begins to rise. And most importantly, it coincides with the moment when Messi, physically, is still in his best possible version at 38 years old. And here appears a clue that changes everything. The October 2025 contract extension included specific clauses regarding inauguration events. Messi didn't just commit to being present, he committed to playing. To being the absolute protagonist of that April 4th. Because he understands, better than anyone, that symbols endure longer than statistics. Think about this. When Pelé arrived at the New York Cosmos in 1975, soccer in the United States was practically invisible. He played in half-empty stadiums, on uneven grass, against rivals he barely knew. But his mere presence planted a seed. Decades later, MLS exists in part because Pelé proved that the American market could embrace soccer if the right idol arrived. Maradona did something similar in Naples, transforming a second-tier club into a European powerhouse and becoming a secular saint of a city. Stadio San Paolo bears his name not because of a couple of good seasons, but because he changed the identity of a place forever. Messi is writing that same kind of legacy in Miami, but with an advantage that neither Pelé nor Maradona had: absolute control over the narrative. Because he arrived when the project was in its infancy, when structural decisions could still be made. And one of those decisions was, we don't truly start competing until we have the stadium. The titles he won in 2023 and 2024, the League's Cup, the Supporters' Shield, even the 2025 MLS Cup, were appetizers. The main course begins in April 2026. And the intense part is that this is just the beginning. Now, the physical evidence. Because we can talk about promises and symbolism, but at the end of the day, Miami Freedom Park is steel, concrete, and technology. 25,000 seats doesn't sound like much compared to European giants. Camp Nou has a capacity for nearly 100,000. Santiago Bernabeu, more than 80,000. But here is the key detail. Miami Freedom Park isn't trying to compete in raw size. It is trying to compete in experience. Every seat is designed with optimized viewing angles. The sound system is immersive, concert stadium style. LED screens cover practically the entire interior circumference, creating an enveloping effect that makes every play feel cinematic. And then there is the exclusivity factor. 25,000 seats means every game will be sold out. It means getting tickets will be an event in itself. It means sponsors will pay astronomical figures to be associated with that place. Because scarcity generates value, and value generates mystique. And mystique is exactly what Messi needs to cement his place as the most important player to ever set foot on American soil. But there is a silent factor that explains the impossible: generational synchronization. Because it turns out that 2026 isn't just the year of the stadium inauguration. It is the year of the World Cup in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. And although Messi will be 38 years old in July 2026, he remains the captain of Argentina, the defending champion, and the face of the tournament. Imagine the narrative: Messi inaugurating his personal cathedral in April, preparing all spring in his own stadium, and then leading Argentina in the most important World Cup of his life, played partially in his own adopted country. It is a cosmic alignment that couldn't be planned better if you tried. And that is precisely what makes this story so epic. Because it's not just a stadium. It's the perfect stage for the final act of the greatest footballer of all time. If you haven't liked the video yet, do it now, because the next part is going to connect all these points in ways you don't expect. The dimensions of the Freedom Park project reveal something deeper. 131 acres are not just for the stadium. They are for creating an entire ecosystem. Themed restaurants, official stores, spaces for corporate events, an interactive museum where, inevitably, the largest section will be dedicated to Messi's years in Miami. Because the club owners understand that the real business isn't the 90 minutes of the match, but the 6 hours fans will spend at the complex before and after the game. And here is the tactical twist: Beckham and Moss learned from the mistakes of other franchises. They studied how Atlanta United built a culture in a few years by creating immersive experiences. They copied the total entertainment model of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And then they amplified it with the Messi factor. Because having the best player in the world doesn't just fill seats, it reconfigures the entire value proposition. Suddenly, you aren't selling a soccer match. You are selling the opportunity to see living history. Attendance figures for Chase Stadium during the 2025 season prove it. Every home game sold out weeks in advance. Resale tickets reached Taylor Swift concert prices. And that was in a temporary stadium, without the premium amenities of Freedom Park. What will happen when the product is 10 times better? When every corner of the stadium is designed for Instagram, for TikTok, to create viral moments that reinforce the club's global brand. Because yes, this is also a branding play. Inter Miami went from being an irrelevant franchise to being the most mentioned team in MLS in less than 2 years. And all thanks to one man. Now imagine that power multiplied by a stadium that carries his fingerprint in every pixel of its screens. But there is a silent factor that explains the impossible: the retirement of Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba after the 2025 season. Two legends who shared 11 years with Messi in Barcelona, who came to Miami specifically to close their careers alongside him, decided that the MLS Cup was the perfect final point. Coincidence? No. They know that the next phase of the Miami project no longer needs transitional figures. It needs youth, speed, and hunger. It needs a team built to dominate on the big stage, not just to win titles in a temporary stadium. The inauguration of Freedom Park marks the start of Miami 2.0. And Messi, far from being the veteran player surrounded by nostalgic teammates, will be the leader of a hybrid generation. Young American talents who grew up watching him on YouTube, reinforced by strategic South American signings who come to learn from the master. Facundo Moura has already arrived from racing. More names are on the way. And all with one goal: to turn Freedom Park into an impregnable fortress. Because in the end, that stadium isn't just for Messi. It's for what comes after Messi. It is the guarantee that when he retires, the project won't collapse. That the seed planted in 2023 grows into a 100-year-old tree. And that long-term vision, is what separates great clubs from forgettable franchises. But the reveal of what will happen on Inauguration Day is still to come. Because so far we have talked about the building, the promise, and the symbolism. But April 4th, 2026, isn't just about cutting a ribbon and applauding. It is the moment when Messi must validate with his legs everything that the stadium represents. And that is where the pressure becomes tangible, almost physical. The opponent chosen for that inaugural match is Austin FC. It's no coincidence. Austin is one of the youngest teams in MLS, founded only in 2021, but with a fanatical fanbase and its own stadium that has already proven how to create a hostile environment. Choosing them means sending a message. Miami doesn't inaugurate with a friendly match against nostalgic veterans. It inaugurates by competing, pressing, and proving that Freedom Park is born for battle, not for empty spectacle. And Mascherano knows it. That's why, before that April 4th, comes the most important strategic preparation of the year: the South American Champions Tour. 3 matches in January and February against rivals who know Messi better than anyone. Alianza Lima in Peru, with 25 national titles and a fanbase that considers the Alejandro Villanueva Stadium sacred. Atlético Nacional in Medellín, where the Ateneo Girard thought transforms into a green cauldron capable of intimidating any visitor. And Barcelona de Guayaquil in Ecuador, a historic club that has seen South American legends pass through for decades. Why undergo that grueling tour just 2 months before the inauguration? Because Messi and Mascherano understand something that European teams often ignore. High altitude, extreme heat, and the hostility of South American stands prepare you mentally better than any gym. If you can maintain focus in Medellín, with 40,000 fans screaming in your ear, the nervousness of inaugurating your own stadium becomes manageable. If you survive the Lima Colombia-Ecuador trip in 3 weeks, the 80 minutes against Austin FC will feel like a Sunday stroll. It's no coincidence, and now you're going to see why. The easy version of this story says that Messi came to Miami to relax, that the pace of MLS is like a vacation compared to Europe, and that the final years of his career will be a controlled decline while he counts down the days until retirement. That narrative is repeated by analysts who have never watched Inter Miami play for more than 10 consecutive minutes. Those who reduce everything to, he's in it for the money, or, he wants a quiet life in Florida. The reality is radically different. Messi played 58 matches during 2025, a historical record for a team in a calendar year. 58. At 37 years old. With the accumulated wear and tear of 2 decades at the highest level. And he didn't just play. He led in goal contributions, in key assists, and in decisive moments that changed entire playoffs. He didn't win the MLS Cup against Vancouver with a lucky goal. He won it with 2 passes that only he could see, with off-the-ball movements that opened spaces for DePaul and Allende, and with tactical intelligence that Mascherano exploited until the very last second. So, why would he agree to play 58 matches if he were here to relax? Why would he sign until 2028, guaranteeing 3 full seasons in the new stadium, if his goal were to minimize effort? Because the uncomfortable truth for the skeptics is this: Messi didn't come to Miami to close out his career. He came to redefine what it means to close out a career. He came to prove that you can be the best in the world even in a league that Europe looks down upon. And Freedom Park is the physical proof of that mission. Share this video with someone who loves football, because what comes next brings the whole circle to a close. The stadium has a limited capacity by design, not because of budget constraints. 25,000 seats when they could have built 40,000. That decision responds to a philosophy. It's better to create permanent scarcity than to fill half the stadium during bad games. It's better to ensure that every ticket becomes a coveted treasure than to see empty stands on television. And with Messi playing there, the strategy works on its own. Because the demand won't just come from Miami. It will come from Orlando, from Tampa, and from all over the southern United States. It will come from Argentine tourists who will coordinate entire family vacations around an Inter Miami match. It will come from collectors of moments who want to say, I was there when Messi inaugurated his cathedral. And the impact transcends sports. Because Miami Freedom Park isn't just a stadium. It's a complete commercial district. It's a public park where families will spend Sundays even when there is no game. It's an interactive museum where, 20 years from now, the grandchildren of current fans will see holograms of Messi's goals. It is the materialization of the dream Beckham sold in 2018, which seemed like a fantasy until the Argentine landed at Fort Lauderdale Airport. But wait, because what comes next is where the story reaches another dimension. The 2026 World Cup in the United States, Mexico, and Canada is no calendar coincidence. It is perfect synchronization, almost impossible to plan intentionally, yet it happened. Messi will be 38 years old in July 2026. Argentina is the defending champion, and the tournament will be played partially on American soil, with Miami as one of the potential venues for group stage matches. Imagine the symbolism. Messi preparing in his own stadium, training in facilities that bear his mark, playing the most important World Cup of his life in the country he adopted as home in the final stretch of his career. The television rights for that World Cup are being fought over like never before in history. Because everyone knows it could be Messi's last tournament with Argentina. And if Argentina advances far, every match will be a global event that stops the planet. Freedom Park, with its cutting-edge technology and controlled capacity, positions itself as the ideal stage for training, for side events, and to serve as the operational base for the Argentine national team if Mascherano, who will be working with the U-23s heading to the Olympics, decides to use Inter Miami's connections to facilitate logistics. So that would be it, right? Well, no. Because there is a detail that changes the entire equation and that very few have mentioned publicly. Freedom Park is not a project finished on April 4th. It is a project in constant evolution. Construction phases continue throughout 2026 and 2027. The full entertainment district won't be ready until late 2026. The interactive museum will open in phases throughout 2027. And that means that every season Messi plays there, the stadium will grow around him, as if the building itself breathed to the rhythm of his remaining seasons. And here enters the factor that explains why this isn't simply a pretty stadium with a famous player. It is legacy engineering. Because when Messi retires, likely in 2028 if he completes the full contract, Freedom Park will be in its final version. And every corner of that place will tell the story of Inter Miami's golden years. Screens will replay his best moves in an infinite loop. Commemorative plaques will mark records he set there. The VIP seats where celebrities sat to watch him play will become relics. Pelé had Santos. A historic club, yes, but one that eventually declined after his departure. The stadium exists, but it doesn't bear his name. The city remembers him, but time dilutes memories. Maradona had the San Paulo, now the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium, the ultimate honor for a footballer. But that stadium existed before him. Napoli was an established club. He elevated it, he transformed it, but he did not create it. Messi has something different. He has a stadium that was born specifically for him. One that was designed knowing he would be the first great protagonist. It will open its doors with him as the central figure and will, very likely, bear his name when he retires. Because Jorge Mas already hinted at it in interviews, this project belongs to Leo as much as it does to us. And when an owner speaks like that, he is planting the seeds of future nomenclature. Imagine 20 years from now. The Lionel Messi Stadium in Miami. Capacity expanded to 35,000 after renovations. The regular venue for League's Cup finals, matches for South American national teams on tour, and events that transcend football. And all because in 2023, a 36-year-old Argentine decided that his story wouldn't end in Europe, but would continue in a place where he could build something from scratch. The young players Messi is mentoring now will be the ambassadors of that legacy. Tadeo Allende, with his record of 9 goals in the playoffs, isn't just a footballing promise. He is a symbol of what the Miami project can achieve. Taking young South American talent, polishing it under the tutelage of legends, and turning it into a star that will eventually shine in Europe or on national teams. David Ruiz, Santiago Morales, and all the homegrown players who now train watching Messi daily will carry that influence wherever they go. And when they give interviews in the future, they will say, "I learned by watching Leo at Freedom Park." And that phrase, repeated by dozens of players over decades, will cement the immortality of the place. But the truth is that this transcends stadiums, contracts, and records. What is happening in Miami is a unique experiment in the history of football. Can a legend in his twilight create an empire that outlives him? Can a player, using the final years of his career, plant roots so deep that the tree grows for generations? Beckham tried with the Inter Miami project, but he needed the catalyst. Messi is that catalyst, and Freedom Park is the vessel where that chemical reaction will occur. On April 4th, 2026, at 7:30 in the evening, when the stadium lights turn on for the first time and Messi steps out of the tunnel wearing the pink jersey with the number 10, we won't just be watching an inaugural match. We will be witnessing the birth of a living monument. A place that, even when he is no longer there, will continue to tell his story. Because it's not just a stadium. It's the home for eternity of the greatest footballer who ever set foot on American soil. And when 50 years from now the grandchildren of current fans ask where Messi played in his final years, the answer won't be at a stadium in Miami. It will be at Freedom Park, the temple that he himself inaugurated. That difference, between playing in a place and being the place, is what separates the greats from the immortals. And in February, when he returns from the South American Champions Tour, we will see if that team is truly ready for the battle ahead.